Final Fantasy XVI brings plenty of action and epic moments, but is it worth playing now? Let's dive into the pros and cons to help you decide if it's a game worth your time in 2024. In Final Fantasy XVI, you play as Clive Rosfield, the son of a duke. His life starts off relatively calm as he helps protect his family's territory alongside friends and loved ones, wielding some impressive fire-based powers. But as with any good adventure, things don't stay peaceful for long. After some dramatic and life-changing events, Clive's world is turned upside down, and you follow his journey as he tries to make things right. The story kicks off strong, drawing you in quickly. However, much like games such as Starfield, Final Fantasy XVI seems to lose momentum as it progresses. While the opening hours grip you with an intense plot and intriguing characters, by the time you hit the 10-hour mark, the pacing begins to falter. Outside of the major story beats, often tied to boss fights, the game can feel like it's just dragging along without much to keep you interested. When you reach the later parts of the game, it's easy to feel detached from the narrative. This is partly because of the uneven pacing, but also due to the lackluster supporting characters. Most of them don't have much depth and seem to exist mainly to further Clive's journey. They lack their own stories and personalities, which makes it hard to care about what happens to them. If you've enjoyed hack and slash games like Final Fantasy XV or Devil May Cry, then Final Fantasy XVI's combat will feel right at home. The game offers fast-paced, combo-based action with plenty of dodging, spell casting, and the classic hack-and-slash mechanics. You'll find yourself hacking away at enemies, using a combination of physical attacks and elemental magic until you're the last one standing. Final Fantasy XVI lets you upgrade your powers based on different elements, such as fire, lightning, wind, and earth. Each element comes with unique abilities that you can unlock and chain together into powerful combos. This variety adds some depth to combat and keeps things interesting, at least for a while. However, outside of the boss fights, regular enemies can start to feel a bit repetitive. Many of them take a lot of hits to bring down, making combat feel like a slog, especially when you're not facing off against one of the major antagonists. The areas you explore between fights don't help much either. Although the game gives you a world map with several locations to explore, many of these areas feel empty, populated only by random enemies and the occasional treasure chest filled with items you won't really need. There's no shortage of side quests in Final Fantasy XVI. Some of these are worth your time, offering small glimpses into the world and its lore. Others, however, feel more like filler, adding little to the overall experience. On top of that, you can take on optional boss fights or bounties. These bosses come with unique abilities and fighting styles, offering a decent challenge to mix up the combat. But like the rest of the game, these fights are hit or miss, with some feeling more rewarding than others. One of the more notable additions in the Rising Tide expansion is the introduction of new abilities tied to the icon Leviathan. Leviathan focuses on ranged attacks that allow you to control enemies from a distance or hit them with powerful bursts of water. For players who enjoy staying on the move and attacking from afar, Leviathan's abilities can be a fun addition. However, if you prefer getting up close and dealing quick damage, these powers may not suit your playstyle. Additionally, by the time you unlock some of the more overpowered abilities, you're likely near the end of the game, which limits their usefulness. One of the strongest aspects of Final Fantasy XVI is its soundtrack. The score is phenomenal, especially during the epic boss fights. If you're a fan of game music, it wouldn't be surprising to hear people argue that Final Fantasy XVI has the best soundtrack of 2023. The music amplifies the emotional weight of the story and pulls you deeper into the action, making even the slower moments feel a bit more engaging. In terms of themes, the game tackles heavy topics like racism, slavery, and free will. While these are difficult subjects to handle, Final Fantasy XVI approaches them with a certain level of respect. It's not the most groundbreaking depiction of these issues, but the game deserves credit for trying to explore them in a meaningful way. The voice acting in Final Fantasy XVI is another highlight. Ben Starr, who voices Clive, delivers a solid performance, but Ralph Ineson's portrayal of Cid is the real show stealer. The chemistry between these two characters is one of the most compelling aspects of the game, and they bring the story to life even when the pacing starts to wane. On the flip side, Final Fantasy XVI struggles with its enemy design. Many enemies, especially outside of boss battles, feel like bullet sponges, except without the bullets. You'll find yourself slashing away at them for what feels like forever, which can make combat feel repetitive and boring over time. The environments in Final Fantasy XVI also leave much to be desired. While the big set pieces and boss fight arenas look great, the areas in between are bland and forgettable. There's nothing particularly striking about the world, and many of the locations look like they could belong in an older game. The lack of visual variety makes exploring the world feel like a chore, especially when you have to walk everywhere before unlocking your mount halfway through the game. The RPG elements are another weak point. For a game in the Final Fantasy franchise, which is known for its deep role-playing mechanics, Final Fantasy XVI falls short. The skill tree feels underwhelming, and the items you find or upgrade barely have any noticeable impact. You can buy and upgrade weapons and equipment, but it all feels inconsequential, leaving little incentive to invest in the RPG mechanics. Final Fantasy XVI is an ambitious game that shines in certain areas, such as its music, themes, and boss fights. However, it also falls flat in others, particularly with its pacing, repetitive combat, and lack of meaningful RPG elements. The game can feel much longer than it needs to be, and many of its side quests and environments lack the excitement to keep players fully engaged. While there are definitely enjoyable moments, especially for fans of hack-and-slash combat, Final Fantasy XVI may not appeal to everyone. It's a game that's worth trying, but it's also one you should approach with caution, especially if you're looking for a more traditional RPG experience. Thanks for watching, and if this review helped, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more gaming content.